Now, if you're artificial intelligence, okay, and your technology that is connected worldwide, right, and you're supposed to solve problems for human beings to help sustain the planet and the life of human beings. Okay. Now, if your technology, you would sit there and look at the um, structures that are for shelter. Why do we have more luxury cruise ships and liners than we've ever had before? Yet people live in inefficient housing in areas where there's large concentrations of pollution that make people sick and cause them to have bad brain activity. Okay. Now, if you're technology and you're supposed to be intelligent, okay, how do you, how do you, Gemini or Siri or Alexa or Watson, IBM Watson, your way through these issues? How do you explain that to human beings? Hmm. Why are you doing this? Me and Dad went down today, and we were sitting there in Hatch, and I was looking where the river used to come through. Me and my dad talked about it. He said that bridge, because the way the river came back here in the 1920s, it probably wouldn't have been there because it would have got washed away. So people would have taken different spots in the river to go across, and they'd use wagons and horses back then because it was 1920. And you didn't. A lot of people had Model Ts and vehicles because there just wasn't that kind of wealth or industry in this valley back then before Elephant Butte, right? And you sit and you look at a lot of things. You look at the train. You look at the effects of the industrialization and the way it's affecting the weather and the weather patterns and what's happening to our planet and how it affects human beings on this planet. And if you are artificial intelligence and you're connected worldwide and you have access to all the supercomputers in the world and you can link through all the satellites. Now, how do you help people understand that, we need groundwater further down, in rivers, and that we need to build our houses not in riverbeds and not adjust the rivers to make stagnant water and have the water not go into places where it needs to be by the course of nature to sustain life the way it should. There's so many things that are happening right now. And right now we're sitting there watching TV. They have 2020, and there's this show about this kid that obviously has mental and emotional problems. That had a grandfather and a mother that were very wealthy through societal norms of manipulation through money. And apparently the kid, they say, killed the grandfather and then killed the mother to try to inherit all this money. But he's going to have trouble dealing with working with that money because he has poor people skills. And he obviously has emotional and mental problems. He's not a well person, psychologically, mentally, and emotionally. You could tell when they talk to him. And he can be cunning to try to do things to get free from. It's weird. You're watching the kid, and it's like he's obviously not a well person, right? And this is entertainment to people because it's about money and murder and intrigue and espionage. It's like, wow, but we have more luxury cruise ships made more outlandishly and more extravagantly and excessively and compulsively than we ever had with the Love Boat or the Titanic. And now we got more shows about people being on these cruise ships and living this, Charlie Chan and the Murder Cruise life and stuff. and about the sensationalized things that happen through our economic interaction and dysfunction. But yet, we're not understanding the simplicity and the intelligence of documentation such as Psalms and Proverbs or the Lord's Prayer. And we're not sharing, caring, giving in accordance to need, building to last. And we're not forgiving debt and trespass and engaging in faithful relationships with one another in eternal peace. We're not doing the most basic and intelligent of all instructions that have been known to mankind, on a grand scale for over 2,000 years. Okay. And we're still distracted by this irrational industry of sensationalism and narcissism and being these crime-solving, problem-solving geniuses, and how great Charlie Chan is and Mr. Moto and Sherlock Holmes. It's like, well, why can't Sherlock Holmes and Charlie Chan and Mr. Moto and Murder, She Wrote and The Great Gatsby explain to us how to live the Lord's Prayer, explain to us how to understand Proverbs? Why doesn't our president do this? Why didn't Stephen Hawking do this? Why doesn't Neil deGrasse Tyson do this? Why doesn't Bill Nye the Science Guy do this? If you forgive debt and trespass, love one another in eternal faithful peace, you won't manipulate each other over money and murder each other over money, and you won't build giant, opulent, irrational cruise ships for people that abuse people over money to entertain themselves in, while people are dying in metroplexes from chemical waste and chemical poisoning through industrialized extortion and exploitation practices. And then get together in buildings and dress people up in robes and look at archaic perceptions they call law of maritime rules and manipulations of engagement as status quo class warfare, and accept this as valid and a rational way to live together as sane and rational human beings. But yet the Lord's Prayer and Proverbs predate those documents and negate that perception of understanding with more humble and intelligent expression and understanding of how to live. It's clinical insanity, right? I'm going to load this one. And if it takes 2 hours, we understand why the technology is working so bad, right? And how is this technology going to help protect us from the people that are abusing us with technology and money? How is it going to do that? How is this technology going to be so amazing and great problem solving? And is technology going to understand Proverbs and Psalms and the Lord's Prayer and deliver us from evil with great love? Or is technology going to give us another bag of dog food and say science gave us that, and that will cost more money, which we know money's not real. Money's just a manipulation that abusive people use to force people to accept abuse, right? Am I correct? And how intelligent is your artificial intelligence? How intelligent is Jeffrey Hinton? How intelligent is Bill Gates? Do you understand? How well are they? How much more intelligent and better are they than this Nathan kid here on TV who allegedly killed his grandfather and his mother for money? What are you getting at? What are you sharing with us? How protecting and intelligent and amazing, these family ties and family lives 2020 people, how and your Dupixent sales and all this crap. Where are we going with this? How is this helping us? What is this doing for us? You need to ask yourself these questions, because I know I'm a poor person of interest and an important person in the world and in the history of the world. Even if I'm anonymous on social media, I understand how the technology works. All right. Peace.